Not to be a cliche, but it feels like only 2 minutes ago that I sat down with you guys to talk about my anticipated releases for the first half of the year. And now here we are once again, ready to talk about the books I'm excited about that are being released over the next 6 months. This is going to be covering July through to December. Gotta be honest though, these are only releases for 5 months of the next 6 months because September, like what is going on? Not to say the releases are abysmal in September, but they are definitely not for me because I do not have a single anticipated release. I also have slightly less anticipated releases for the second half as I did for the first half of the year. I think we're going to be talking about 12 books today in total. Specifically with my anticipated releases, there are books that are being released that I'm vaguely interested in, but the ones that I'm going to be talking about are ones where there is a high likelihood that I'm actually going to pick them up at some point. So by authors that traditionally I really enjoy, in series that I'm currently up to date on or will definitely be picking up the next book in the series. Maybe they're by a favorite author. If there is a release coming out in a series that I'm not up to date on and it's not like one of my favorite series of all time, you're probably not going to find it in this list because I'm probably not going to pick it up for a little while. We also have a few books that I've received from publishers, so arcs that I'm excited about, as well as just generally things on my radar. This is also by no means an exhaustive list. I am sure that there are things that I've missed. I always get questions about where I find my anticipated releases, and I almost exclusively use the browse section of Goodreads for new releases, where they filter all of the new releases by month based on the authors that you already have on your shelves. So I use that to form the basis of my list, and then I go onto the Goodreads like popular releases and I scroll through the first 50 to see if there's anything I want to add, and then I cross-check those dates with Waterstones. So all of the dates that I'm giving you are the UK release dates for these books. Straight off, we'll just get into it. The first book that I'm anticipating is a July 3rd release, which is Shield of Sparrows by Devney Perry. So I was recently sent this finished copy by Penguin Michael Joseph, so thank you very much to Penguin Michael Joseph for that. This is one that was kind of like vaguely on my radar, but now that I have a copy in my hands, I'm very excited to prioritize it. This one I'm pretty sure is Devney Perry's romantasy debut. Devney Perry is a very well-established indie romance author, and I've been interested in Devney Perry for a while, but seeing as I read more romantasy than I do general romance, I feel like this will be a good introduction to Devney Perry for me. In terms of the synopsis on this one, I don't know too many details, which is actually probably going to be a recurring theme throughout this video, but I do know that it concerns a princess and a blood pact that she has to uphold against her will, and a warrior is escorting her on her journey to do just that. And I'm assuming there is a prince involved as well, but I'm assuming that the romance is going to be between the princess and the warrior. For the 7th of July, I have Terror at the Gates by Scarlett St. Clair. This one was sent to me by Sourcebooks UK, so thank you very much to Sourcebooks for that. This one is the first book in Scarlett St. Clair's brand new series, which I think is an urban romantasy following a thief who finds a blade, and when she takes it to the fence that she normally sells her stuff to, upon touching the blade they die. So then she takes it to this influential guy in the city. I don't know if he's one of like the rulers of the underworld of the city or something like that, who realizes that she has a very, very powerful artifact and knows that that is going to bring trouble to her door. Also for the 8th of July, we have The Undercutting of Rosie and Adam by Megan Bannon. This one is the third book in the Heart and Mercy series, with the first book being The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy. Honestly, I have no idea what book 3 is about. I have already pre-ordered the Fairy Loot edition though, and the series as a whole is a series of rom-coms on a fun fantasy backdrop. So the first book, The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy, following an undertaker called Mercy and a marshal called Hart. These two despise each other. However, when a letter that Hart wrote in a moment of vulnerability mysteriously ends up at Mercy's door, they start to converse anonymously and grow closer without knowing who it is that they are sending letters to. For the 15th of July, I have Three Shattered Souls by Mike Holland. This one is the third book in the 5 Broken Blades series. I've pre-ordered the Goldsboro edition of this one, and this one is a heist story following 5 people who are down on their luck, who have been brought together to kill the king. They have been selected specifically because of their skills, but also because they have nothing to lose. I really enjoyed book 1. 1. I have yet to carry on to book 2, but I did want the matching Goldsboro edition to complete this series. And the release schedule on this has been super fast as well. It feels like 2 minutes ago I pre-ordered book 2. Also on the 15th of July, I have The Jazzed Crown by Sarah Hashem. This one is the sequel to The Jazzed Heir, which is kind of a romantic fantasy. It does have a romance plotline, but it is really heavy on the fantasy as well, which I love. And it's following a girl who is the heir to a kingdom that used to have magic. Now, all of the areas of this world used to have magic, but the magic died out in every area apart from where this girl is from. And there was another realm that was created specifically to police the magic of this world. And since this one kingdom grew stronger than the rest of them, they were called in to essentially eradicate this kingdom and to kill all of the magic wielders. So our main character has been on the run since then. However, the prince of the enemy kingdom that destroyed her own suddenly arrives in the village where she has been hiding out, and he selects her as his champion to compete in this like Hunger Games style trial that they're having to celebrate something which I can't quite remember. A 17th of July release is one that I'm very, very excited about, and that is Human Rights by Juno Dawson. This one is the third, and I am assuming the final book in the Her Majesty's Royal Coven series. So this one is a contemporary fantasy story that is set in the UK, and I just remembered in a video, I think it was an episode of Shelf It or Scrap It, I was saying how much I love young adult fantasy that has occult magic in it, so like psychics or witchcraft, and I couldn't think of an example of an adult fantasy I've read that has the same vibe, and Her Majesty's Royal Coven fits that perfectly. But this is essentially following a group of 4 women who used to form a coven when they were children. Since then, there has been a war between the witches and the warlocks, and these 4 women have gone their separate ways. One of them is now the High Priestess of Her Majesty's Royal Coven, which is the governing body of witches, and she finds a prophecy that says that the Sullied Child is going to summon a demon that brings about the end of days. So she gets in contact with her childhood friend Neve and asks her to rehabilitate this child that she's found that is very angry, very closed off, and very clearly in pain and is lashing out because of it. Moving on to the 7th of October, this is one that I am going to be pre-ordering. I will probably get an Illumicrate Afterlight edition of this one. I have not read book 1 in this series yet, but it is by an author who I have yet to rate less than 5 stars, shall we say, and that is Mate by Ali Hazelwood. So this is a follow-on from Bride, which I still have not read, and that one is a paranormal romance following, I think it's like an arranged marriage between a werewolf and a vampire. Now, every book I've read from Ali Hazelwood I have given 5 stars. However, I have so far only read Ali Hazelwood's contemporary romance. I typically am not interested in paranormal romance with a plot like this, especially because this is like very light Omegaverse, which I have read before and not enjoyed. I know that it's on like the lighter end of the scale and doesn't include a lot of the intricacies of the Omegaverse, so there's a chance I'll like it because of that, but essentially I'm only trying this series because I love Ali Hazelwood so much. So Mate is kind of like a tentative one on here. I will be pre-ordering it specifically because it's Ali Hazelwood. If I read Bride between now and then and I don't end up enjoying it though, I will obviously change my mind, but I'm only giving this a chance because I trust Ali Hazelwood. Another one for October and another sequel to a fairy loot romantasy book is A Scar in the Bone by Sophie Jordan, which is the sequel to A Fire in the Sky. Now this one is following a girl who is the whipping girl of the princesses of this realm. So she's kind of treated as a princess, but she also takes all of their punishments. So she's like a member of the family, but not actually a member of the family. And the leader of the warriors that protect this world comes to the palace one day and says, you take us for granted, you look down upon us, and we perform this very, very valuable role in this world that is protecting you. So as a sign of gratitude, I want to marry one of your daughters. So the king kind of pulls the wool over his eyes and gives him the whipping girl to marry instead of one of his actual daughters, and says like, she is one of my daughters, like I've raised her as my own, despite her not being part of the royal lineage. So she, against her will, marries this guy that she considers to be a savage because of how she was raised, and has to travel to the furthest boundaries of this kingdom and join this society that is very, very different from the pampered position that she had in the castle where she was raised. This is also a series that has dragons. There's some hidden magic in here as well. It was short, but I think it packed a whole ton of world building in, and it was a little bit different to the romancy that I typically read, which made it feel a little bit fresh. So I'm actually quite excited to continue on with this one. One that I do not know very much about, but like all of Olivia Blake's books, it sounds amazing. This one is a release for the 23rd of October, and it is, of course, Girl Dinner. So I have only read 2 Olivia Blake books to date. They are the Atlas 6 and Masters of Death. However, I continue to collect Olivia Blake books because I feel like her concepts are amazing. Like every book that she writes sounds like the best thing I'm ever going to read. And I'm particularly interested in this one because it centers on a sorority. That is all I know about it. I think it's like a little bit of dark academia. I think it's going to have a little bit of a satirical edge to it. And I'm very, very excited to dive into this one. It is also perfect for the season. I just love a sorority novel, I have to be honest. And then November brings the epic fantasies that I'm excited about. So for the 6th of November, I have Empire of the Dawn by J. Kristoff. I have only read book 1 in this series so far, but at this point, what I feel like I'm doing is I'm reading the first book in a series, and if I like it, I'm putting it aside until all of the books are published so I can read them back to back instead of having to worry about keep coming back and like rereading for every new release to get the best enjoyment out of a book, because my memory is not amazing, I gotta be honest. But this one is an epic fantasy set in a world where vampires have taken over, and our main character Gabriel is the last of the Silver Saints, which is an elite order of vampire hunters. So this is a story that is set in 3 timelines. The present day timeline is that Gabriel has been captured by the vampires and they are asking him to tell his life story. So eventually he agrees and he tells the story from 2 points in time. The first one, the earliest timeline, is when he was growing up, like where he's from and how he joined the Silver Saints. And the second timeline follows the height of his career, where he was searching for the vampiric Holy Grail. For the 11th of November, we have my most anticipated release of the year, which is The Strength of the Few by James Islington. I am hoping to reread The Will of the Many. There are some exceptions to wanting to set a series aside and like only read it when it's finished and actually enthusiastically reread it to be ready for the new release. And The Strength of the Few falls into that latter category because The Will of the Many was my favorite book of last year. So this one is a very complex adult epic fantasy series with a smidge of sci-fi in there, which honestly is my favorite. But it takes place in this world where there is a country with a magic system that's essentially based on a pyramid scheme. So everyone cedes will to the people above them, and the higher up you are in the pyramid, the stronger you are because of all of the will that you receive. And our main character Viz is from a country that has been conquered by this one. So he wants nothing to do with this pyramid scheme, nothing to do with the government. He doesn't want to participate in the society, and he is doing everything he can to avoid having to submit to this system, which is actually very, very hard. So when he's approached by a guy who's quite high up on this pyramid called Ulkiskor and asked to infiltrate a prestigious academy, he jumps at the chance because if he does well, he will achieve his dream of staying out of this governmental system. However, the reason why Ulkiskor wants him to infiltrate is because he believes that the person who runs the academy is not only doing something nefarious to destabilize the area of the government that Ulkiskor works in, but he also thinks that this guy is responsible for the death of his brother. So Viz's aim is to infiltrate the academy, do really well, but also dig around in the background as well to find out what happened to Ulkiskor's brother. But then a little extra element is added as well, because as Viz is preparing to do this, he is approached by a rebellion that once again he wants nothing to do with, that are trying to destabilize the government. And then the final book that I'm excited about this year is Fallen Stars by Amani Eriu, which is the sequel to Heavenly Bodies, which is one of my favorite books of this year. So Heavenly Bodies is a fantasy romance series that is once again heavy on the fantasy, which is my preference, set in a world that is heavily inspired by celestial bodies and the zodiac, and the magic system is also influenced by this. So we are following a girl who is from this kingdom of shadow, and there is a prophecy surrounding her that says that she is going to fall in love with a star and it is going to cause the death of them both. So the star that everyone thinks that this relates to comes down and kills this girl's family and tries to kill her as well to stop this prophecy from unfolding. She, however, escapes and is taken to the Light Kingdom, which is an enemy kingdom to her own, and she is essentially forced by the ruler of that kingdom to train with his son to eventually take down the star. Now it's beneficial for her because she gets to get revenge for the death of her parents, but also she has to work with this enemy kingdom who she knows have their own interests in heart. Like, they want protection from the star in case he turns on them. They're not interested in her revenge. So she begrudgingly agrees and starts training with this guy's son, who she assumes is as awful as his father because he's from an enemy kingdom. But throughout the course of the book, she finds out that that may not be the case. Those are the books that I am the most excited about for the second half of 2025. So down in my comments, let me know which of these books you guys are most excited about, but also let me know what your most anticipated release of the second half of the year is, because I know that there are bound to be some great releases for the end of 2025 that I've missed and have not included in this video. But also, if you would like to let me know you were here but you don't feel like you have anything to say, leave me a star emoji for Fallen Stars by Marnie Eriu. But aside from that, guys, please don't forget to like this video if you liked it and subscribe if you wanna. If you head into my description box, you'll find a link to my Goodreads, my Instagram, and my Patreon if you'd like to follow me on any of those. That's it from me today, guys. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you will go where nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.